This video provides an overview of the two different options for intersection radio GPS units, how to decide which to use, and some important notes on installing them. The two available model numbers are the 3100, also called the pole mount, and the 3101, also called the cabinet mount. The previous generation was the model 1010 pole mount and the 1012 cabinet mount. This video will be referring to the current generation 3100 and 3101, but everything in this video also applies to the 1010 and the 1012. All intersection units may be installed, replaced, and swapped with no additional programming required. The pole mount 3100 contains the radio, the GPS receiver, radio antenna, GPS antenna, and the processing board. It is connected to the phase selector via model 1070 cable, which is sold in bulk in 500, 1000, and 2500 foot spools. The 3101 contains the radio, GPS receiver, and a processing board. A model 1050 radio GPS antenna is also required, along with the model 1072 wiring harness, which connects the 3101 to the phase selector. The 1050 and 1072 are included in the box with the 3101. Now let's review how to decide which model to use, the cabinet mount or the pole mount. A cabinet mount does not require a ladder or bucket truck because all of the components are in or on the traffic cabinet. However, many customers do not like a cabinet mount because they do not want to mount the antenna on the cabinet roof for concern of vandalism, aesthetics, or drilling a hole on the top of the cabinet. For customers with these concerns, then the pole mount is the way to go. For customers that do not have these concerns, it is still important to point out that every cabinet may not be a good candidate for a cabinet mount. Since the location of the antenna is important and a cabinet mount requires that the antenna be roof mounted, cabinet location may be in such a place that results in poor or marginal performance. Some examples of cabinet locations that will result in poor performance are cabinets located under a bridge or inside of another structure, urban areas where nearby buildings block the view of approaching vehicles and or the sky, or areas that have very heavy tree cover. Even though the Opticom GPS system is not strictly line of sight, it will always perform better with as few obstructions as possible between the antenna and the approaching vehicles, as well as between the antenna and the sky. When mounting the antenna on the cabinet roof, be sure the cabinet is in a location that minimizes obstructions between it and approaching vehicles. Also, mount the antenna so that it can see over the top of the cabinet if the roof is sloped. A bead of sealant around the perimeter of the antenna is recommended. Now we will talk about the considerations for the pole mount option. Typically, a pole mount will produce better range and provides more flexibility on high-speed roads or at intersections with long pedestrian clearance times, because the antenna will be mounted much higher than the roof of the traffic cabinet. The first thing to always keep in mind is that the maximum length of the 1070 cable run from the 3100 to the phase selector is 250 feet. Anything longer and the radio GPS unit will not function due to signal loss. The 1070 cable should never be spliced. The 3100 should always be mounted horizontally with the threaded hole on the bottom. Mounting any other way will reduce performance significantly and cause eventual failure from water intrusion. Neither model antenna, 1050 or 3100, should ever be painted. Substances in the paint may adversely affect radio and or GPS reception. Typically, the 3100 is mounted on the traffic pole closest to the traffic cabinet. You may need to mount on a different corner if there are significant obstructions between the 3100 and approaching vehicles. The following are best practice considerations that you should try to follow if possible. Of course, sometimes compromises need to be made. Try to mount the 3100 above nearby obstructions within about 5 feet. If there are nearby bridges, try to mount the 3100 high enough to see over the bridge or low enough to see under the bridge. Avoid heavy tree cover between the 3100 and approaching vehicles. Try to point the rear wire entry point toward areas where vehicles will not be approaching. When the 3100 is mounted very high, range is typically increased. But also try to not let it be the highest device in the area, as it may become a lightning rod. The 1070 cable may enter either through the wire entry point on the rear of the 3100 or up through the threaded mounting hole. Remove the access cover to make the terminations of the 1070 cable. The removable connector has a color-coded label. Double check all wiring terminations. Verify that the correct wire is in the correct terminal, all screws are tightened, and that neither too much or too little insulation has been removed. GPS radio antenna unit selection and placement is very important in order to optimize the performance of an Opticom GPS system. Please refer to the installation manual or contact GTT technical support if you would like more detail or advice.